G'day mates, in today's video I'm going to cover everything that happened today in the FNCS qualifiers, the last chance for a lot of our big teams to qualify. Did Mongraal and Mitra make it across the line? What's going on with teams like Tayson Thomas HD or Edgy and Tahi not making it out of opens? Are they out of FNCS? Are we now going to see an FNCS where Tayson and Thomas don't even make semi-finals? Also, at the end of today's video, I want to discuss a massive topic that I don't think enough people are talking about, the prize pool and how it's distributed. We've seen a massive change in the way the player base works in Fortnite right now, and the prize pool is really unfair at the moment. I'm going to talk about why that is at the end of today's video. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. Before we get into talking about and celebrating who did well and who popped off in the qualifiers, let's talk about who didn't make it, because this is our last chance to qualify for FNCS. Yes, you heard that right. FNCS started 3 days ago, and this is the last chance for these guys to play qualifiers. If they didn't make it to round 2, that is it. FNCS is over for some of them, and that's where I know you guys are confused. You probably saw Tayson and Thomas HD didn't make round 2, Edgy and Tahi didn't make round 2. A lot of people freaking out thinking their FNCS is over, and them saying on social media they're still in, and that's where the confusion's coming from. So let me break it down for you. Before we start to talk about the teams who are completely out of FNCS like Mitro and Mongraal, let's talk about what's going on with these teams. So this is all courtesy of Kinch Analytics. He's phenomenal. He runs all the stats, all the data. You've probably seen him. He has a Discord where he puts up real-time point projections. He has really cool stats, so credit to him. I'll put his Discord in the description down below if you want to check it out. I also pulled these stats from Reese Hub's video that he did in conjunction with Kinch Analytics, breaking down how the qualifiers work in even more detail than I did. I was saving this part because I didn't want to overload you guys at the start with the information about how semifinals works until we get through open. So semifinals, the way it's going to work is we are going to be having 72 teams who are the most consistent who didn't already get top 8 in the round 3. So you know how obviously we had Bucky's team pop off the other day. They've gone straight into grands. They're skipping semifinals, but the way semifinals works is it's going to be the top 72 most consistent teams, and the top 50 are going to play in the first semifinal. So that is where we're looking at for teams like Tayson and Thomas HD and Edgy and Tahi, because they didn't make it out of round 1 today, but they did so well in round 3 of the first qualifier. They've already got enough consistency points or series points where they've already got themselves in the semifinals. So in case you care about those numbers, Kinch broke it down and did the projection, and he predicted that you need around 500 series points to get top 50 to play in the first semifinal. So you get to play in all 3 of them, which means you need to get top 25 in one of the set lobby qualifiers, or you need to get top 70 in both. So that's where teams and players like Thomas HD, Tayson, Edgy and Tahi, who got top 25 in that qualifier but then did terribly this week, those series points are still going to carry them into the semifinals. Whereas if you want to get top 72, you're going to need around 400-ish series points, which means you need to get top 40 in a single qualifier or top 80 in both. And you might be confused on why I keep saying top 50 and then top 72. It's because the way the semifinals work is they're kind of going to be like reboot rounds. The first semifinal is going to start with the top 50 teams, but if 5 people win those games, the 5 winners of those games, they go through into grand finals, and the top 6 points who didn't get a win are also going to go through. So that leaves 11 places. That's 11 teams that need to go into the next semifinal. So then all the players who didn't get a win or top 6, they move down into semifinal number 2, and then we fill with those extra consistency teams. I hope that makes sense. You'll know when we actually get to the day, but when I'm talking about Edgy, Tahi, and Thomas and Tayson, that's why they are already through, even though they didn't play well today, which is concerning. Obviously you want to pop off in opens, but if they played really well in set lobbies yesterday and didn't do well in opens today, I'm not too stressed, because semifinals are going to be those set lobbies, and that's clearly the gameplay that they have down. Maybe they just got unlucky today. I know Tayson tweeted out this is the unluckiest tournament he's ever had. You got to remember, Tayson's been playing for a very long time now, so I don't know what happened, but it must have been unfortunate. Obviously, this means teams like Mitro and Mongraal who didn't make it out of round 1, unfortunately, they didn't make it out either time, which means they didn't get top 25 or top 40. They're out. Their FNCS is over, and it's really sad to see. I was enjoying watching Mongraal and Mitro play their games, and I want to touch on that a little bit, because a lot of people in the community are really frustrated with Mongraal and Mitro. Why are they playing like this? Why are they W King? They're washed. All the stuff you normally hear around Mongraal and Mitro. But I want to try and give a little bit of insight. If you didn't watch all of the games, you may have noticed something. They were having fun for the most part. Yes, they were getting angry at certain times when they died. Mongraal's always gotten angry when he dies. Same with Mitro. They're very emotional players. That's why people love watching them. But for the most part, I would see them being one of the games they need to qualify desperately. Mitro goes down and they just laugh or they just talk about it. They weren't really freaking out. I feel like there's a lot of people in the community putting this massive expectation and weight on Mongraal and Mitra to pop off and perform, and they should start doing scrims, they should start VOD reviewing, they should get coaches. Maybe they just don't want to. Maybe they're just enjoying playing the game the way they do. Mongraal and Mitra have always been super high energy, high octane W key players. That's why they built a name for themselves and everyone loves watching them. And that's what they tried to do. They tried to implement a strategy that is very risky. If you guys don't know, the way they play is they try to drop a really huge first game, get like 30 or 40 kills, then they wait half an hour so the lobbies get worse, they're versing worse players, then they try to do it again, and that's why it's so fun to watch. They're just W keying and running at everyone. Yes, it would be awesome to see Mongraal and Mitra qualify and pop off and go on to win grand finals, but I'm seeing them get way too much hate and way too many people trying to tell them how they should be playing their games without them ever saying what they actually want to do. Mongraal and Mitra weren't like, we want to make grand finals, we're gonna win it, we're the best players ever. They're just playing the game the way they enjoy. I see the same thing happening to Reet and Rex, who were just W keying their way through their games. I know Reet's a little bit more vocal and he gets a bit more upset on stream and blames the meta, and that always upsets people when he makes a bad play. I get that, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys that insight because I feel like not enough people are kind of talking about that. And again, it's sad to see, but I always hope they come back to competitive and take it super seriously. But as long as they're streaming the games, popping off and going crazy, I'm going to be there watching. And I imagine most of you guys are too. They had about 50,000 viewers on their stream the entire qualifiers, so I think Mongraal's doing okay without qualifying, honestly. They weren't the only upset though who are now out. We also have a couple other people, Nick A30 and Dawn. I absolutely loved watching their qualifier run. They got so close. They went down in their final game on spawn. They really could have clutched up the qualification today, but I was super impressed with how they played, especially Nick. I know he doesn't play comp a lot. I know he practiced and takes it seriously, and it shows. He played really well. They only just fell short. Dawn clutched up massively in their second last game, so big props to them. Some of the other upsets though, Frey and Kidowo, Gold and Tieko, like I already touched on, Tahi's team and Tayson's team, they've still got consistency points to lean on because they've already done well in the set lobby finals so far. So those are the main names that are completely out already. There are some other ones that I haven't talked about, but I don't want to go into every single name. Speaking of Reet, there was a lot of pressure at the end. Reet and Rex left it to their final game, the very last game of the qualifiers, to clutch up. If they did not clutch up in that final game, they would not have qualified, and you can imagine what the hate would have looked like towards Reet, and they clutched it up though. They were playing super aggressive. Reet and Rex was streaming up until about halfway through the tournament, W keying everything, running at everyone, again hearing the same things in their comments, the same as Mongraal and Mitra. Just play for endgame, stop W keying, you don't need to play like this. But they stuck true to their name, and even in their last game when it was the 10th game, everything on the line, they pushed for it. They got, I think it was like a 19 or 20 kill top 5. They played really well. They pretty much W keyed the whole game despite it being a dead lobby. They even went for high ground at the very end to try to go for that big pop off moment. It was fun to watch. I enjoyed it. I was streaming it. I was doing a viewing party. A whole bunch of you guys were in there cheering them on and freaking out with me, but they clutched it up. We will be seeing some kind of, hopefully a semi-final. Reet and Rex now need to go on and get that top 40 or that top 25 like I already talked about, courtesy of Kinch, to then make it straight into the semis. Epic Whale and Arkram also made it through today, which is fantastic because they didn't make it out of round 2 yesterday. So if they didn't make it through today, that's it. Their FNCS would have been over as well. So we could have potentially had no West FNCS with Reet and Rex or Arkram and Epic Whale. Would have been crazy, but for now, we're all good. Before I get into talking about who did well, there's a topic I really want to talk about, and it's the prize pool. And this is a topic that's gotten a lot of conversation in the past. We have discussed it on this channel. Epic decided the fairest way to split the prize pool was to do it based on player base and how many people participated in FNCS. But this happened a few seasons ago, and since then, it's changed a lot. The prize pool right now really isn't fair at all. And some people don't like the fact that it's split on player base. Some people saying that regions that bring more viewership or more attention or have a better pro scene should have more, but I find that too hard to define. I don't think there's any fair way for Epic to split it other than player base, but right now the player base has shifted a lot. I mean, I've gotten this graph made and I'm going to break it down. So this is players, not teams, and it's a comparison between this season's player base and last season. First off, you'll notice that this season just has a lot more players. We talked about how this is probably due to duos, the fact that the FNCS is way later in the season, but it's also just really encouraging to see the fact that player base has gone up this much But what you'll probably notice is the prize pool doesn't really make sense for this season. So if we look at Brazil, this is where it starts to go really weird. We have now $4,118 going to Brazil, but in this season, Brazil only has 13,420 players. Meanwhile, NA West has 14,988 and has only got $239,000 and 500. So that is a huge difference. That is like over $150,000 difference in the prize pool, despite having more players. Even more so, look at Asia. Asia currently has more players playing in FNCS than Brazil, but it has less than a third of Brazil's prize pool. Brazil's walking away with big money right now. Even OCE, which has always been the lowest prize pool, has the least amount of players. They have 5,000 players, but that is still over 1/3 of what Brazil has, despite getting far less than a third of the prize pool, not even getting 1/4. So the prize pool really does need to be readjusted right now, and I hope Epic looks at this, and I'm sure they will do something. I don't know why there is such a significant drop in Brazil specifically. That seems to be where the player base size has dropped so much. Some people in my chat today saying it could be due to the natural disasters in Brazil right now. Very sadly, they have been having some mudslides that have had a large amount of fatalities, and I think this could affect people playing, but I don't think you'd see such a massive shift. I'm talking tens of thousands, if not thousands of players of difference if you look at the percentages of all the regions. It is an absolutely massive shift to go from 8,400 players last season to only 13,000 this season. Meanwhile, regions like NA West are going from under 6,000 to then almost 15,000. They're over doubling in their player base. So not really sure what's happened there, but Epic really needs to reevaluate how the prize pool works. And this is no disrespect to Brazil. I've always argued that player base is the most fair way to do it, but if Epic's going to do that, they need to stick to it. The other thing I've argued for, I don't know if anyone at Epic is listening, but with the prize pool, the weirdest thing is the cash cups. The prize pool is based on FNCS participation, which is region locked, but then it affects cash cup prize pool, which isn't region locked. So NA West, who doesn't have a huge FNCS participation, but then has a massive cash cup participation because all the NA East players are playing on NA West, sometimes even EU players playing on NA West, they don't get any more prize pool for that, despite the fact that very regularly you'll see East players placing at the top because they've only got sometimes 50 and 60 ping. So the prize pool very heavily needs to be reconsidered right now, and I feel like the stats just do it justice. I'm not making any personal arguments, just if we're gonna go off player base, it has to change. Got to shout out and celebrate the guys who could pop off though, the guys that didn't struggle. And starting off with EU, we had first place go to Kiriachi and Stormy Ride on 222 points, 9 matches, 3 wins. Remember, they did already make round 3s previously as well, so they're looking very good to at least make it into semifinals if they can't get a top 8 in the finals. We had Splash and Jam, so we had Kinzel up there, Lucia, Mustache, and Malibuka. Obviously, the absolute Opens Demons. Pink and Anas, no surprise. Benji and Savage showing up big again. Remember, pressure on for Benji and Savage because they didn't make it out of round 2 yesterday, so they need to make the round 3 today. They need to make the set lobby. Then once they get there, they need to get at least top 40 to make it into the top rounds of semifinals, round 3, but they need to get a top 25 if they want to play all the semis. But Benji and Savage, when they make set lobbies, I'm feeling a top 8. I am pretty confident if they make it, they will get a top 8. This round 2 is no longer 2 hours 7 games, it's back to 3 hours 10 games, so there's a lot less RNG. Fingers crossed they pull it off. We also had Seti and Chapix up near the top as well. We had T-Chips, whole bunch of players. NA East, we had Yuz and Okas take it out, which is a very underrated team that just formed. I'm a huge Yuz fanboy. I have been for a really long time. Bit sad that he took Antics out of his name, and that's when he places first on the leaderboard. Maybe I am just that cursed, I don't know, but good to see them at the top. We had Convicted and Boxer, another very underrated team in second. Knifer was up there, Bully, Degen, AV, Berserk, whole bunch of fantastic teams. On to NA West, the similar story, a whole bunch of underrated teams. We had Yalistics and Batterista M. Now, this one's very interesting though, because Batterista M is actually on console and streamed the whole thing. So he got first place on console and streamed it on 90 ping. So huge shout out to Batterista. Honestly, I'm incredibly impressed by that. I know it's opens. People are gonna say, oh, it's just opens, but getting first place in any tournament where there's gonna be everyone trying, PC players included, on console and streaming and 90 ping, I mean, bravo, very, very well played to this team. We had Flameback and Ghosty in second. I believe it was Yumi and Herbie. We had Andy's team up there as well. So we had the Hispanic team showing up big on NA West, and it was exciting qualifiers. It did feel pretty like last-ditch effort. I was really focusing on those big names that really, really needed it. But with round 2 and round 3, I'm very scared for some of these teams, though. That round 3 format is a lot harder than round 1. Getting from top 400 to top 50 is incredibly difficult, even with 3 hours and 10 games. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.